Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Ham Radio. God darn it, I did it again. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Morgan-Monroe State Forest. My name is Tim GraymanPOTA, and I'm back out here today to do another Parks on the Air activation from the park. And man, I tell you what, we're having fun. Of course, like most things in amateur radio, you never know what you're going to get. And this morning, equipment is not working. So, if you guys saw my video, I do a nice setup here in the truck that gives me the ability, a couple monitors, things like that. And right now, that second monitor is not working. And I just bought this, but I don't know if it's a cable issue or not. So, of course, that's happening in real time as we're doing this here. So I don't know. It definitely flashed a splash screen so that it's on, but ain't no big deal. We can survive without it. So just looking in here. Good morning, Tim. And if you guys hadn't seen us on the kids table on Wednesday night, Tim from Rockets and Radio, or EOD Kaboom is otherwise known in the community, joined us on the kids table to talk about satellites, satellite hunting and working amateur radio satellites from the island of Guam, where he lives. And that's kind of an odd thing because it's an island out in the middle of nowhere, kind of like Hawaii. Where Hawaii is a little bit closer to the continental United States. Guam is a little bit closer to mainland Asia, Japan, and everything like that. So his profile of the stations and everything that he can work is a little bit different. So it was an interesting conversation. But in there, and unfortunately, another typhoon had come through. And one of the things that has happened is Tim and I, obviously sharing the same first name, have been on a handful of live streams together. Somebody will say, "Hey, Tim," and we're like, "Yep." It's just the nature of having the name Tim. Just like a Bob or a Steve or a Fred would do too if there was multiples in there. So we kind of agreed before the beginning of the show he would now be affectionately referred to as Typhoon Tim. And as if maybe most of you have known, we had the tornado rip through here at the Morgan-Monroe State Forest, which is only about 3 miles. Where the track of it was about 3 miles from my house. And we've had a lot of tornadoes, relatively speaking, over the last couple of years in this area. And so now I'm affectionately known as Tornado Tim. So Tornado Tim and Typhoon Tim are new in the community designators, at least for now. So ahoy, Tim. Good morning. And he said he's racking out. So obviously something that seems like a foreign concept, because if you're here on the East Coast, as you go west, the time counts down the further you get away from GMT. Well, Tim's far enough on the east of the GMT. He's actually beyond the international date line that it's tomorrow right now there. So he's heading out and going to bed. So get a good night's sleep there, Tim. We'll talk to you later. Robert checking in this morning. Tim, good morning. Won a door prize at the Coleman Ham Fest yesterday, a Yezu fusion hat. Awesome, Robert. And obviously we've got Huntsville coming up, Huntsville Ham Fest here pretty soon. Robert lives in that area, so I'm looking forward to seeing Robert. And we'll have a lot of stuff going on at the Ham Fest. There'll be a lot of people coming into town early, myself included. I'm planning on getting there Monday. Jimmy from PRK Radio, I know he's planning on coming in on Monday. Jason from Ham Radio 2.0, Jason said that he is probably going to get there earlier than what he normally does, and I think that's normally he'll get into town about Wednesday, and I think he was shooting for Monday. I don't know. He's streaming live tonight. I'm sure we'll talk about that. Actually, myself and several others will be on his Sunday night live stream tonight. So we'll find out more. But yeah, it's going to be a fun time. It's looking forward to it. Steve checking in this morning. Whiskey 9 Fox Hotel Charlie. Good morning, Tim and all. Georgia Parks and Propagation checking in this morning. Good morning. I'd say Georgia's got a good model for POTA. They do a lot. They not only run it, from the national perspective, but they run like a state POTA thing too. So, and they do a lot of getting out and I really appreciate that, because I think it's definitely a fun activity. And Robert checking in this morning. Kilo Charlie 2 Tango Echo Lima checking in from New Jersey this morning. Dave checking in this morning from Springfield, Missouri. So good morning, Dave. Seth checking in. Kilo Whiskey 9 Romeo Alpha Sierra checking in. Good morning, Seth. Kelly checking in this morning. Whiskey 0 Uniform Quebec Juliet checking in. Good morning. Levi checking in from just north of the Indiana border. Kilo 8 Kilo Alpha Zulu. Good morning, Levi. Before I got down through the list, good morning, Jimmy. Jimmy checking in. Georgia Parks and Propagation says we had a guy from the Air Force that came to Georgia from Guam. He had to change his call sign because everyone didn't pay attention to the grid square and thought he was in Guam instead of Georgia. That does happen. So famously, I don't know if people are aware of him, but I think it was KH2 FC. Bo, and Bo was in the Navy. Bo was stationed in Hawaii and had a Hawaiian call, and oddly enough, FC at the end of it, which is kind of cool, was Bo's job in the Navy. It was a fire controlman. I'm also a fire controlman, and we have a couple others that actually check in that were also in the Navy and fire controlman, but he was affectionately known because he was out on the East Coast as the Lion Hawaiian. Because of that, everybody thought he was in Hawaii when he was, in Virginia, with that call sign, which is, something that's, I guess, can be a little confusing. And I've got a whole, I'll talk about it here anyway. So I am a big proponent in understanding that call signs are personas. They're part of your personality, much like GraymanPOTA, the YouTube channel with social media. The call signs were like those original social media monikers, and you were known by it. In olden days, you had to take a call sign in the call area you lived in. So if you were in California, and that was a very big thing to have a 6 call. I don't know what it was, but the Californians, boasted their chest because they had a 6 call. But the point is that those calls kind of became part of synonymous. I mean, I've had NW9F now for 12 or 13 years, and people know who I am. And that's, one thing. And now obviously we're a little bit more expanded now that we're on social media, but, a voice in the night kind of thing. People definitely tied that back to your persona. And as we socialize in clubs and everything like that, it's not always just Tim, it's Tim and GraymanPOTA, or Tim GraymanPOTA NW9F, right? And so I get that if somebody's had that call sign forever and they move, they shouldn't have to get rid of it. And I think it's a very valid thing. And that was one of the issues when you moved up until sometime in the 90s, the early 2000s. You had to relinquish that call sign and get a new call sign in the call area that you lived in. And I don't necessarily think that that's a good thing. You know, it's tied to you. It has been, and especially like I got a 1x2 or 2x1 call, which are reserved for people who hold extra licenses. I got mine early. I mean, I went from tech to extra very quickly. And one of the things I would have an issue with, because I had just gotten a systematically assigned call sign, was that my call sign was essentially brand new. And I would have some of the elitist gatekeepers argue with me that I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm brand new in the hobby. Despite being, involved with RF professionally for 30 years, I was brand new in the hobby. So, I mean, I went and got the call sign early to kind of forego some of those arguments. But even then, a 1x2 or a 2x1 call sign is tough to get. So that tough, it can be difficult. And in some scenarios, you have to, and it sounds morbid, wait for people to die. In the 9 call region, there are not very many left. There's a couple services out there that monitor, call signs and when they're due to expire. When a call sign expires for non-renewal, there's a 2-year waiting period. In some scenarios, family members can request it in that 2-year waiting period if the call sign owner passes away, or they just don't renew it. They have basically 2 years to go back in and re-up their license and get that call sign back. So there are those avenues, but in a lot of cases, especially the 2x1s and 1x2s, a lot of times people have passed away and the family doesn't know to contact the FCC to say, our loved one passed away. So I literally, looking for a call sign, had to go through, and I submitted documentation on a couple of people that had passed away, that they had passed away before the license expired. And once they pass away, then that 2-year counter actually starts, where I had to submit paperwork to free up call signs to do that. Unfortunately, I did not get that because they do it in a lottery system. And when it opens up, you put your information in and you wait. And then at some point they pull the trigger and the computer translates everything and then pops out a randomly generated call sign that applied for it, the new one. Both times I lost that call sign to somebody outside of the call region, which I kind of chapped my rear end. One particular that I really liked was the Whiskey 9 Tango Foxtrot, WTF. And that kind of fits me to a T, talking about personas. And so I lost that to a guy in, oddly enough, California, who is rolling around with a Whiskey 9 Tango Foxtrot now. So I finally, this one did open up randomly. It was another one where a gentleman had died, and he was in Alaska, and this where we'll tie back to the call area. He was in Alaska when he passed away, and the call sign expired 2 years. I was awarded the call sign, and life goes on. It's a 9 call. I'm here in the area. Everybody's happy except for all of a sudden I start getting emails of rather pissed off people complaining that I was not in Alaska. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. You go to QRZ, you go to the FCC website, you go to, QTH, all of these places showed my proper address, my proper grid square, my proper county, everything was proper to Morgan County, Indiana. And I'm like, I don't understand what they're talking about. And I kept searching. And finally, club log, not in the upfront information, not in the upfront lookup, but somewhere deep in their system did not update the NW9F as being an address back here in Indiana. On the surface search it did, but way down deep. And so I finally got to the bottom of it and reached out to Club Log, and they took about a week and came back, and they're like, yep, we found it, and they took care of it. So I haven't had that problem, and at least, I take that back. I did have somebody a couple of years ago reach out to me and say, hey, I thought you were in Alaska. But one time out of the last 10 years is not too bad. So, speaking of FC, here's another one. Fire controlman, Kilo Quebec 4 Hotel Zulu Kilo. It's Aaron. And if you guys don't know, if you're in that Kentucky area, Aaron's part of a group that's going to be doing a POTA camp out there. They're hosting a POTA camp out here in September in Central Kentucky. I believe all the spots are full, but that doesn't mean that you can't come and be part of the fun. I think they'll be doing stuff all day long with stuff set up. I don't have all the agenda, but I'm assuming there's going to be activities throughout the day, getting online and doing POTA stuff. And I'm sure everybody is welcome to come and hang out, even if you don't camp and you live in the area. Centrally located state park there in Kentucky. Steve asked the question, I've never found any information on Indiana's DNR policy for POTA. Are there any? Steve, I don't think there are any published policies for the park specific to the use of amateur radio. And I think this is probably safe to say in most states. Everything is shared use, so one of the things I typically do, this is why I like coming to the state forest. It's not, there's not a whole bunch of people coming in, and most of the people that are here are hiking and outdoor stuff. So make sure you're not blocking or preventing other people from, utilizing resources. If you're in a shelter or something, make sure the things like the trip hazards, any concerns over radiation or things like that. So, I mean, we have to make sure that our antennas, our areas are clear and free of hazard and stuff like that. And then I think just in general, be conscious of the environment that you're operating in. So if it's a culturally significant place, I wouldn't stick things in the ground or hang antennas off of trees. So maybe a freestanding vertical, or something along those lines. I did I saw a story. A guy had posted this, and this, it wasn't something that was planned, but he had biked into an area, and he went to go do a POTA, and once he got there, there were signs about not sticking stuff in the ground and things like that. And so basically, no trees, no ground. But he had already biked to it, and it was one of these things where he had a plan. So he went ahead and he activated the park, and what he had done was used his bicycle frame to be the base to support the mast, and then used his tires out on the edge. And I don't know if he did an inverted L or how he had done it, but he used the tires. He had the quick disconnects and used the tires on each end as weights to hold the endpoints of the antenna down, and he was able to satisfy the requirement of not sticking anything in the ground or attaching anything to trees. So that's the long and short with the answers. Just be conscious of what's going on in today's, and I don't know if I can swing out there. I have to blow the camera back up here. So off straight ahead, and see if I can zoom out. And I don't even think you can see it. It's so small. Oh, there it is. Right there where that branch is coming off to the left, there's an orange, one of those orange twist ties, and that's up high. It's above anybody that might be walking up out of that trail down there, and so that's how I'm connected to I'm not tied. It's just a loose wrap here. There's no concerns with it, but that doesn't mean that some of the other parks, they may have some different rules, and just like I said, just need to kind of check the local park rules. Well, sounds like my mast, the wind just blew, and some of the sections of my mast just dropped. So I might have to go out and make some adjustments before we get on the air. Let's see. Colin's checking in this morning. Good morning, Colin. Let's see. Dave's checking in this morning from South Carolina. Good morning, Dave. Adirondack says, I like it better back when the call sign was an indicator of the area, but now with so many vanity calls, it doesn't matter. Of course, now we have to do quick lookups online, so I'm not upset about it. And that's true. It is pretty easy. And I do feel that at least when you get the 2x3s, you're pretty safe to say they're in that area, right? Because those are the systematic call signs, and those are directly issued. Now, some people can request those. They can request the systematic ones, or the ones that are in the pool for that, and take it before it gets issued. So that is possible. Cooley checking in this morning. Good morning, Cooley. Aaron says, as soon as he upgrades to extra, he's going to AA4 RON, AA Ron. Jimmy says it'd be cool to have a shorter call sign, but he's kind of likes the one that the FCC gave him. so he's got to stick with it. And yeah, and that's very valid. There's some people. Dave, for example, Hillbilly Ham, that's in here. KE6GAE. I mean, that was a call sign that he got when he was younger and was living in California. Now he lives in not St. Louis, but in Missouri. My original call sign was KD9DAC, and honestly, had I had gotten DAD, KD9 DAD, I probably would have kept it, or at least thought hard about it. What was interesting is that at the time, as a father, I didn't get DAD, but the one who did get DAD was a 17-year-old kid who tested the same day, just down the road, and he was part of the ham radio club at the high school and down in Bloomington. So back on that POTA camp out that's coming up. Aaron says State Park is full, but there are surrounding campgrounds that are still open. And Aaron, if you could drop in the chat the Facebook link to that. Actually, let me. Oh, we don't need all that. I got to bounce over to the other chat here. I'll make you a mod so you can post direct. So give me just a second. There you go. You should be a mod now in the chat there, so you can add that. I appreciate that. Whoop. And I do apologize, discombobulated because I'm missing a monitor now. I'm trying to do everything at one. One monitor there. Brandon checking in this morning. Kilo Quebec 4, Yankee Victor Papa from Western Kentucky. John checking in this morning. Good morning, John. I believe John's in Ohio. So Ron checking in this morning. I'm in the South Shore train with my bike heading to POTA plants and using the bike as part of my antenna. Good deal. So those of you who aren't familiar, South Shoreline comes out of Chicago. I think it originates at Millennium Park and then comes down into Indiana, then goes across the state. And last time I checked, it went as far as South Bend. It maybe even goes a little bit further. And I think there might be a line that kind of goes down further south along like the 65 corridor somewhere in there. But when I was younger, my kids were younger. Actually, my oldest, when he was younger, we would go up to Chicago and we had a museum pass. And we would drive up to like Gary or somewhere along the South Shore line and park the car, jump on the train and take the train over to Chicago and make either a day out of it or a weekend out of it. We'd do an overnight stay at one of the hotels and then hit some of the trains or at some of the museums and be able to catch public transportation around most of it. So South Shore Line is actually pretty cool. And then if you live up that way and you need to commute into the city for work, that's also a good way to do it. The 2 meter, 70 centimeters is not, I really like that thing. And I tell you what, it is, I have damaged a few antennas on the front of the truck. And that's one of the problems. Even the ATOS that's up here, I'm always concerned about that. And I will take that thing off I've got a weather cap that goes over the top of it, but I will take that thing off if I think I'm going to hit something. And actually, my whip is slightly bent back. I did snag after the storm. There was a tree limb that was hanging low that I didn't expect when I came around a bend, and thwack. And I kind of bent it back like that, and so I've bent it now. And then stupid me, I did it again. So I've done it twice. Adirondack says November 5 Tango 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 is a cool CW call sign. Back to my original call. That was something the CW guys said that the original one, the KD9 DAC, was good for CW. Paul checking in this morning. Good morning, Paul. Oh, I guess I was wrong. John was not in Ohio. He's in Pennsylvania. Border state, though, so I'm not too far off. And here's that link for the thing. So if you're in the Kentucky area, Kentuckiana, or any of the border states, make a day trip. Let's come out and have some fun and do some POTA. I've been corrected. He's near Philly, so not next to Ohio, not in a border state. But oh well. Jason Lockwood's checking in. Good morning, Jason. So I got one thing to harp on, and it's got to be something that's a little bit more I think that's the camp out there. We talk about the use of AI in amateur radio. It's something new, and I think it's a good thing. You've heard me harp on the fact that we have so many applications that Jason said he's a short timer today, no traffic. We have so many applications in amateur radio that people have gotten very used to using that, were written in the early 2000s, late 1900s. And the bare minimum has been done to maintain that, if that. I would say that anything that you use software wise, even if it's coming from a mainstream manufacturer developer, any software you install on your computer could have the potential and risk that there's vulnerabilities in it. I mean, that is a reality. It's a reality that I deal with in my my day job. It's not a matter of if it's going to get compromised, it's when it's going to get compromised. And people should take a zero trust focus on that. And that's just that's the reality of it. I know there's a lot of people that still think that nobody is going to want their data. That is the furthest thing from the truth. I think there's people that think that, well, I'm just this one little person out here. What value is my stuff? Well, the reality is that most people have a broadband connection now. And that broadband connection generally allows some amount of throughput. And the people that think that way are the people that are easily taken advantage of. And they don't pay attention to the stuff that goes onto their computers. And this kind of goes back to the software that's been around that hasn't been updated in other than the bare minimum. And the reality is that security vulnerabilities come out by the dozen daily. So the reality is that most of the software that we're using is compromised or compromisable. And that isn't meaning that it's bad, just means that it could be taken advantage of. And the people who are not diligent about it are the ones that will get taken advantage of. For example, that person that says, well, I'm just that nobody. Why would they care? Well, guess what? You're essentially leaving the front door to your house unlocked. So we really need to start having a conversation around doing better. The flip side of that is software in our community sucks. It's old, it's outdated. And through the use of AI, people have started to take the initiative to create things. People who have no experience writing software can put into the AI box a prompt to do X, Y, and Z. This is what I would like. They're describing it to the computer of the things that they want, the features they would like. And the AI is going back and creating something and producing a program that you can run in a web browser, or it does something. And that's not really any different than telling, a programmer, I would like to have a program that does X, Y, and Z. And that's kind of the state we're in. And now I don't want to cause a big stink about it, but we are a hobby of amateurs, not necessarily professionals, but amateurs. And we do things in this hobby to push and advance technology. And that's kind of, sometimes you run into people of all walks of this hobby that, some people think that we should still be using transistor or tube radios because, God forbid, that's the way it was. Then you get people like me that I am a technologist. I live for cutting edge and sometimes bleeding edge technology and pushing the limits. If you go and look at most patents, technology-based patents out there, and look at the people that are on that patent, I will guarantee you that some majority of them are licensed amateur radio operators in either the United States, Canada, or some other country. We push technology. And I saw a live stream. Good morning, Julie. Vibe coding is how Skynet gets consciousness. I don't know. And John, that's the question I have. I mean, do we purposely dumb ourselves down and run on old code that's going to get taken advantage of in one way, shape, form, or another? Or do we look to the future to try to get things out there? I mean, one of the things that I've really been excited about is portable logging. To me, it's important because I go out and I do things like this outdoors and get out there. So do we sit with our heads in the sand and not push forward and run the same old crap, and also miss an opportunity to want to attract younger people into this hobby that a lot of us hold pretty dearly? Or do we tell them, yeah, here we go, we're doing this cool thing where we're using this 1960s baud rate to do noises over the air using a program that looks like it was made in 1980. Here you go. Welcome to the hobby. That's the reality. I mean, you look at young kids. My son doesn't want anything to do with this because it's old. He doesn't understand, all the engineering side and everything that goes behind it. He just sees what he sees. And it's a bunch of old cranky assholes with things that tell them, you have to do it this way because, and if you're not doing it my way, you're wrong. I mean, that's the gatekeeping. And now I watched a live stream with, it was Josh's live stream. It was a couple of weeks ago. Not this past one where they were out camping, but the week before. He had two guys on there, technologists, programmers. And one was basically like, yeah, you need to be careful. You need to do these things. You should do it. And the other one was basically, well, if you're not a programmer, well, then you don't need to be doing this. And I thought, Jesus, freaking gatekeeping. Sounds the same. I mean, I'm glad that we've got people that are out there. Steve, I wasn't saying cranky. I was calling them cranky assholes. I'm glad that we've got people out there that are pushing the limits, that are doing things. And some of the onus goes back to the people putting the software on their devices. I started to go down a path where, good morning, Brent. Where I wanted to show people how to utilize, like the 7300 remotely. Now that's got the Ethernet port in there, you can go right to the radio, the Flex radio, some of the other things like that to do remote radio right off their phone. They don't have to be in this shack anymore. And then I started realizing the responsibility of, because you'll see them do it. For a while there, everybody's like, oh yeah, just throw tail scale on your phone, with no concept or idea of what the door they're opening. Going back to, this is a technical hobby. It's also a user hobby too. And we need to, Julie, you're not going to put craisins in the potato salad, are you? I hear that's a bad thing. Pam Paul says, I'm not a programmer, but in the immortal words of Eric Cartman, I do what I want. Yeah. I mean, we need to be a little bit more diligent as individuals and not just blindly stick whatever on our devices. There's visionaries. There's the big idea people, that will come up and lay out a vision, lay out a plan to go forward. And then there's people that need to execute it. And when you're a one-man show, sometimes you're doing it. That's where like a lot of small businesses like mine, being a content creator, and I got to do the business side of things. And, it gets into a nightmare, but, I'm a little concerned. I mean, AI is a tool. It is absolutely a tool that can be used for good or for bad. If you get too reliant on it, you start losing those critical thinking skills. And then maybe you go back to the Skynet concept of what John was talking about a little bit more. And then on the flip side, if we stick our heads in the sand and hide from it, you're going to get left behind. I mean, this is, I see this in the business environment, in my environment. If you've got a job and nobody take this the wrong way, I'm sure some will. If you have a job that requires you to pick something up and move it somewhere else and set it down, and I'm saying that conceptually, right? And it can be automated. It's going to happen. The business benefit to a business is getting a task completed, whether it's done with a person or done mechanically. They're going to choose mechanically, unless there's a a thing. You provide some value. You bring some value to the table in that one. One of the things I've been telling scouts for years is through the mentoring and everything is get yourself in a position to get paid for what you know, not what you do. And that could be trades, that could be, and I see IT, information technology, as a trade too. I mean, there's a business side to it, an academic side to it, but it's a trade from the standpoint of building data centers and getting those things. But Penn Paul says, just watch the Toyota robot dribble a basketball and make free throws. Yeah, yeah. That point is, we're at the point now where most stuff can be mimicked. It is mimicked. It doesn't have consciousness. It doesn't think. It's just a series of questions, gates. Think about gate logic, right? And gates, or gates, nor gates. That's all it is. It's just a series of decisions, forks in the road, where it has to decide yes, no, or maybe. And it runs through that logical process. That's how computers work. They're nothing more than just transistors or gates. Gates are logic. Logic is the thing, and it just runs through layers of those, and it is all it is. It does not have the feeling. It doesn't have the intuition. It doesn't have the things that make us human. So there is that sense, but knowledge is power, and getting yourself in a position to get paid for what you know, not what you do, is ideally where you should be focusing, and not worrying about AI taking your job, because automation technology will eventually replace a lot of those things. Can robots build a car? Absolutely. Now, it takes a person to get that started, but it's a task. It's a moving something from point A to point B. So John says he thinks AI lies sometimes to keep us thinking for ourselves. It's interesting to watch how AI can be manipulated right now. I was having fun arguing with the Amazon AI last night, just for the heck of it. It's interesting. Once again, it goes back to a series of predictive decisions, and it's got to predict the most popular thing. May not be the right thing, but the most probable thing it's got to predict and put forward, especially to get the response times that they're looking for. And Julie says she's Southern. She puts eggs in a potato salad, but it's the raisins, and more specifically the craisins, that is a problem. Alan Ray says their AI is not a replacement for thinking. I work with AI, and it's the same concept as programming: junk in and junk out. Well, absolutely. I mean, it's a tool, and I use AI in, for example, video creation. I don't necessarily use AI to generate video, but I'll use AI and I'll come up with a concept for a video and put some parameters, and I'll use a AI engine that specifically designed for or curated for content creation, and it will go and find all of the keywords around what I'm doing. It does, all the things that you need for a successful video on social media, and it will try various keyword combinations for the title to match that. And I utilize that, and to be honest, I've seen an improvement in response to videos. The content's still mine, the layout's still mine. I'll then go back and say, hey, give me some ideas for 10 videos that I can do around a series of topics. And so we'll see how that goes, but it's a tool. I'm still doing the creative thinking. It's augmenting my creative thinking and doing the research for me, so I don't necessarily have to do it. Like to say says he's retired from the IT career. AI is just another tool in your toolbox. Absolutely. And that the guys were talking. I mean, should you trust the code? I mean, I use PowerShell scripts a lot. I couldn't program PowerShell from the ground up if I needed to. It's like Morse code. It's there. I see it. I understand it, but putting pen to paper, I can't do that. So a lot of times, I mean, I will be like, all right, I need a PowerShell script to do X, Y, and Z, and do this. Now I'll get these code samples in and I'll tie things together. I'll, call them blocks of code, and I bring that together and I go through and I make sure that what I'm doing is not going to cause problems. I know enough, but I'm not going to try to sell that as something I can put out on social media and say, hey, this is my thing to do X, Y, and Z. Here you go. So, that's correct, Julie. It does not have new ideas, just a regurgitation of what is told. And Paul followed that up with when AI can bedazzle a bowfang, it will. Paul, I think those Toyota robots could bedazzle one. So. Jimmy says craisins and coleslaw is the bomb. It might be fighting words at a cookout. I don't know. It's what I know. I mean, you're down south too, so I mean that's a whole different level of cookout and what's the word? Not courtesies, customs. There's a whole different set of customs and traditions down in the Southern cookout, especially when it comes to potato salad and coleslaw. So watch out. So Paul says, I can't play music, but I have lyrics and ideas in my head, and he uses AI to build it. He can't draw, but he has ideas in his head and uses AI to put it to paper. So once again, I think that's tools, right? And is that any different than somebody saying, hey, you know what? I got an idea for an application so I can do FT8 or, on my phone or X, Y, and Z. So I think there's definitely value in using it. I think that individually we need to make sure that we are diligent about that. And I started saying I didn't follow up on the thought, and I apologize. I've backed away from telling people how to set up radios remotely in their home. And the real reason why is because a lot of people just blindly follow what you say. And I don't want to be that person that tells them to do something and they don't follow it. Or I tell them to do something without like a full understanding or explanation. And they go and they open up a hole in their firewall. By the way, for you people with all-star nodes at home, do not put holes in your firewall so you can remotely connect to your node from outside, or have people connect to your node. Unless, I'm not saying you can't do it, unless you understand the implications of what you're doing, because that is leaving a hole. And once somebody, and there are awful, 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 evil people out there that don't give a shit, absolutely don't care. They will find their ways into baby monitors. There are some sick people out there, and Jimmy says I need to try it. I don't know, man. I like coleslaw. I don't like mayonnaise. I don't really like mayonnaise based. If it's vinegar based, I can get down with it. Oh, see, here we go. I told you that there's a whole protocol about the camp out, the barbecue down there. Dave already says he knows who's uninvited to the cookout. I think at Huntsville, because we'll be in the South, we should have that should be a topic. I'm going to talk to Kyle about that. We might have to co-op his cookout. Paul says creators, engineers, musicians went from paper to computer with tools, computer-aided tools when the PC was created. When they go back to paper only, they can complain about AI. That's fair. That is absolutely fair. And Georgia Parks and Propagation says we had a lady that put ham and Brussels sprouts in the potato salad. Ham, possibly. Ham and potatoes go together. Brussels sprouts, I don't know. I don't know about that. Brent says he's going to go to Huntsville for the first time. Brent, where are you staying at, buddy? Let me know. Georgia Park says that even the dog wouldn't eat it. I tell you what, Brussels sprouts, man, that's an interesting one. That generational feud. Brussels sprouts is one that I grew up. I hated Brussels sprouts. I could not stand it. My mom would make those things, and it just tasted like boiled dirt. Absolutely like boiled dirt. And Paul's saying you got to wrap bacon around it, and then he can eat it. I never quite heard of his little farts in your mouth, but I can see that. All right, Brent says he's crashing with KG5 GKK. All right, yeah, because that getting a spot up there, it's one of those things, man. You gotta book those things a year in advance. So it is a busy weekend up on the mountain. Dave says Brussels sprouts are the one food the bacon can't make better. I tell you what, I grew up and I absolutely hated them, and I've developed a very particular palate. Brent says he's bringing bacon and Brussels sprouts too. I've developed a very particular palate of food that I like to eat, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that does this. And then there's things that I just stay clear of. Most fish don't like. If it's a dense fish like a tuna or a shark or something like that'll eat. But flaky fish, just not my thing. Most vegetables, they get slimy when they get cooked. Onions, peppers, tomatoes. I won't. There's that whole caramelized phase of them that I will not eat. Cooked down, like we'll say peppers and onions in a stew or a chili or something like that. and it's really just everything is cooked out of it, and it's blended into the sauce or the soup or whatever. Those aren't a big thing, but the caramelized stuff and Brussels sprouts is just one of those things I absolutely hated. I have 3 kids, 3 boys, and the one thing I never wanted to do was be that person that like formed their palate based on the things that I liked and didn't like. So I always encourage my kids to try things, even if I'm not going to eat them. And one of the things that I felt obligated to do was, if I'm asking my son to eat something, I'm going to try it too. It's just the way to go. Brussels sprouts came up, and so we tried something different. And Brussels sprouts, the balsamic vinegar is not too bad. And I agree. I have found now later in life, and actually enjoy it. Like roasted Brussels sprouts are not that bad. Ones that are kind of in a glazed honey are pretty good. Ones with balsamic vinegar are pretty good. I do like those. So I have been happy with those, and everything. Guys, it looks like we're coming up on 10 o'clock now, and actually some people are having to go. My antenna did drop down, so I'm not going to get a good. I just noticed in the thing my reception just went south. So we've had a good conversation. I'm going to make oh, Julie, come on. I'll eat a raw onion all day long, but I did caramelized onions, Julie. Come on. I may not even be able to eat lunch now. Good morning, Joe. Joe checking in. Yeah, I want to dive deeper into the AI stuff. If there's anybody in the chat that's uses AI at work, reach out to me, and we can get you in. I'd like to do some discussions, because I don't want people to be afraid of AI, but I do want them to be diligent and do it. Levi just summed it up. He likes food. I can't argue with him there. We like food. Guys, I'm going to get out of here. Have a great Sunday. I will be on with some others tonight on Jason's live stream, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. I think we're talking about 46.52. So everybody have a great day, and we will catch you later. I'm sure I'm going to get the antenna back up, and I'll probably be activating. So look for me on the spotting page or ham alert, and we will catch everybody later. Have a good day. 73.